Arirang News.
According to a survey released by U.S. think tank at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, 7 out of 10 Americans polled believe that the South Korea-U.S. relationship bolsters U.S. national security. The results also show that there was bipartisan consensus on the benefits of the alliance for U.S. security, with 74% of Republicans backing the alliance, along with 70% of Democrats and 68% of independents in support. The survey also showed some 58% of Americans are in favor of U.S. troops defending South Korea in case of an attack by the North. The U.S. Coast Guard has rescued the last of the 4 crew members who had been trapped inside a cargo vessel that capsized 2 days ago in waters off the U.S. state of Georgia. The ship is managed by the South Korean firm Hyundai Glovis, and it was carrying more than 4,000 vehicles. Now, for more on this, we have our Hong Yu on the line. What final details are we learning from the rescue efforts by the U.S. Coast Guard, and what are the conditions of these 4 rescued?
Konyang, like you said, all 4 South Koreans who were trapped inside the ship called Golden Ray have now been rescued. They were the last of 24 people who were on the ship at the time of the incident, and everyone is now safe. In addition to them, the crew included 6 South Koreans, 13 Filipinos, and the ship's American pilot. The U.S. Coast Guard said they extracted 3 of the remaining 4 on Monday afternoon from the propeller shaft room near the ship's stern. But one of the 4 was in a different area, and so another plan was needed to get him. A fire had impeded the rescue process at first, but it was put out Monday morning, allowing the Coast Guard to drill through the ship's hull to find the missing 4. Then the rescuers rappelled down from a helicopter into the hull and found the first 3 safe. South Korea's Consul General of Atlanta was at the scene and said in a briefing after the initial rescue that by talking with the first 3, they were able to indirectly verify that the other man was still alive. He was rescued later in the day at around 6 p.m. from behind glass in the ship's engineering compartment where he was trapped. All 4 rescued are in good condition and being examined in hospital. The Golden Ray had left the port of Brunswick early Sunday, headed for Baltimore, and just about 1.5 kilometers from the coast, it started listing heavily. It's not clear why it tilted over, but the authorities are investigating. That's all we have for now. Konyang, back to you.
Our Hong Yu following up on that story. Thank you. Now, Seoul may officially remove Tokyo from its whitelist as early as next week. That's right after the 4-day-long Chuseok or Korean Thanksgiving holiday. Seoul's trade ministry is in the final process of revising its strategic material export-import control guidelines. The measure was announced in August, and the 20-day public opinion gathering process ended last Tuesday. Now, the change would mean stricter conditions for Japanese firms when importing strategic goods from South Korea and a longer approval process from Seoul's government. Tokyo announced new export curbs in July and revised its trade whitelist on August 28th, citing an alleged lack of export controls on South Korea's part. Amid growing economic uncertainties, Paul Krugman, a Nobel Prize-winning economist, advised Korea to take bold actions to prevent possible deflation. That to remain in the global supply chain while avoid being part of the U.S.-China trade battle. Our Song Young shares with us his remarks.
Paul Krugman said Monday that South Korea needs to use fiscal stimulus as a means of avoiding deflation and boosting its economy. He was speaking in Seoul at the 2019 conference of the Knowledge Sharing Program. He emphasized that when the global economy is weak, fiscal expansion can be effective. He also said that South Korea, as Asia's 4th largest economy, has plenty of room for expansionary fiscal spending. Krugman also emphasized the importance of South Korea remaining in the world supply chain, expressing concerns over the rise of trade protectionism, especially through the U.S. China trade war. Against this backdrop, Krugman said that while it might be difficult for South Korea to exercise direct influence on the U.S. and China, Seoul can avoid being part of the trade dispute. And Seoul should remain in the global supply chain by trading with third parties such as the European Union. The conference where he was speaking, the knowledge sharing program, aims to share Korea's expertise in economic development with other countries to address economic imbalances and improve sustainability. 서은경, Arirang News.
Speaking of U.S. China trade battle, U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin says the U.S. China have a conceptual agreement on enforcement concerns showing signs of progress made in trade talks between the two sides. Speaking to Fox Business Network, Mnuchin's latest comments hinted at what's to come when the two sides resume their high-level trade talks next month. However, the Treasury Secretary also warned that President Trump has no problem keeping his heavy tariffs on Beijing if a deal cannot be reached. The two sides appeared to be on the brink of a deal earlier this year, but negotiations fell apart in early May, leading to each side imposing more tariffs on the other's goods. Today marks World Suicide Prevention Day, and the World Health Organization announced that one person dies every 40 seconds due to suicide. According to WHO data, 800,000 people commit suicide every year. The WHO warned that too few countries have effective suicide prevention strategies in place. It explains that more than 3/4 of such deaths occur in low and middle-income countries. According to the Korea Suicide Prevention Center, South Korea's suicide rate was 24.3 deaths for every 100,000 people as of 2017, which is nearly twice the OECD average. The country of Georgia is renowned literary work. The Knight in the Panther's Skin has a strong fan base here in Korea. Now, we'll take you now to take a look into that story of heroism through a special photo exhibition, and our cultural correspondent Won Jung-hwan takes us there.
A special exhibition has opened in Korea, shedding the spotlight on a superb achievement in Georgian literature. Held at the National Library of Korea until September 28th, The Knight in the Panther's Skin, written about 9 centuries ago, meets the Korean audience for the first time through 40 pieces of high-quality pictures of the ancient manuscript. The 600 pages long book has been translated into at least 50 languages, including Korean. That feat was accomplished by Professor Cho Ju-kwan, who spent 10 years researching and translating the text through cross-checks of the English and Japanese versions.
It was funny how every country translated the title quite differently. For example, in Japanese and English, they translated into panther, but in Russian, it was tiger. I needed to find out, so I met with some Georgian experts and decided to use tiger in the end.
The professor also pointed out that its narrative structure that speaks of friendship, courage, and love involving 2 Indian and 2 Arabic soldiers is very similar to the popular Korean TV drama Descendants of the Sun. And besides literature, there seems to be other cultural similarities between Korea and Georgia.
The Georgian Korean history pages look like each other a lot because we are both of us one of the oldest nations in the planet, and both of we are survivals. We are fighting for our territorial integrity and sovereignty till today, and peace is the very important issue as well.
And the ambassador also mentioned the upcoming Chuseok holiday, highlighting the similarities between the two nations.
We have in Georgia the same tradition. We are not calling Chuseok. It's not reflected about the harvest, but the tradition itself is the same. And we have the same tradition as well. We are going to remember our ancestors to the cemeteries, making the food, the special food for that day especially, bringing to the cemeteries, drinking there and remembering. And also it's very important in a family-wise, because families gathers and we are going together. I think that this is the values what we are sharing between each other.
Although it's a month-long exhibition of an ancient book from Georgia, the organizers hope that it could lead to more tangible cultural exchanges between the two countries in the future. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
The U.S. has confirmed the end of peace talks with the Taliban, but will keep pressuring the Taliban for significant commitments. Now, this is what the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Sunday. But now, President Donald Trump says that the talks are off as far as he's concerned. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's go over to our Kim Da-mi. Now, Tammy, tell us more about what Trump said are dead talks.
Right, Kanyang. President Trump has said talks with Taliban leaders are dead. He made the comments to reporters at the White House on Monday before leaving for North Carolina. Trump also noted that he was still considering reducing the U.S. troop numbers in Afghanistan. He added that his country would like to get out, but at the right time. But some experts say his declaration of the end of talks could be one of his negotiation strategies. Currently, 14,000 U.S. soldiers are based in Afghanistan. Months of U.S. negotiations with the Taliban ended on Saturday when Trump abruptly announced the cancellation of secret talks at Camp David with Taliban leaders. Trump said that talks could not continue after the Taliban took responsibility for an attack in Afghanistan last week that killed a dozen people, including an American soldier. The talks were aimed at securing a peace deal to end nearly 20 years of war. The UN has warned that climate change is the greatest ever threat to human rights. The warning came from the UN Human Rights Leader Chief Michelle Bachelet during the 42nd Human Rights Council in Geneva on Monday. She blamed climate change for civil wars and the plight of indigenous people in Amazon. Denouncing the drastic acceleration of Amazon deforestation, she urged leaders of Bolivia and Brazil ensure the implementation of long-standing environmental policies to prevent future tragedies. She also added that she was alarmed that migrant children are still being held in centers in the U.S. and Mexico. Nissan CEO Hiroto Saikara was resigned after admitting that he had received dubious additional income. Nissan told reporters at a news conference on Monday evening that the board has approved his resignation, which will be effective from September 16. The resignation came just days after Saikawa admitted that he and other top Nissan executives were overpaid as part of a stock-related payment plan. While denying any wrongdoing, Saikawa said that it's happened among previous leaders before. A successor will be appointed next month.
Well, time now for our Life and Info segment where we focus on information useful for your everyday life. We begin with damage relief measures by the government for businesses affected by Typhoon Ling, the fifth most powerful typhoon to hit South Korea since the 1950s. The Korea Development Bank and the Industrial Bank of Korea have decided to postpone loan repayments by up to 1 year for companies affected by the storm. Commercial banks have also proposed plans for recovery loans at low interest rates. The National Tax Service is also offering assistance with taxes. It'll extend the tax due date for a maximum of 9 months for those that apply. Those affected by the typhoon can also apply for assistance on the National Tax Service's website. Seoul Metropolitan Government will implement special traffic measures for the Chuseok holidays. For September 13th and 14th, which is the day of Chuseok and the following day, the city of Seoul will extend the operation of subways and the public buses until 2 a.m. so that people traveling late at night can get home safely. The city will also operate 3,100 extra taxis at night during the holidays. 521 emergency hospitals across the country will also be open 24 hours as usual, but many smaller clinics will be closed during the holidays. An average of 6,800 hospitals, clinics, and pharmacies nationwide will be open each day from September 12th through the 15th. More information on that can be found on the city's website through Dasan Call Center at 120 or by calling 119 in emergencies. Now, during the Chuseok holiday, many families here in Korea gather and prepare foods like chun or pan-fried delicacies. Now this means lots of cooking oil near fire and of course requires extra caution. The best way is to use fire safely, but our Park Se-young tells us how best to put out fire in case you make fire.
In an experiment, the researchers heated up a pan full of cooking oil and let it sizzle as if it had been left unattended. When the oil gets to about 380 degrees Celsius, it catches on fire. When water is thrown on it, as often happens when people panic, the flames shoot up more than 2 meters high.
The cooking oil itself is very hot. The sharp difference in the temperature of the water makes the fire worse and spatters the oil.
Dishwashing soap and ketchup are also dangerous. They can cause flames to grow and spread or make cooking oil boil over and cause burns. In emergencies, it can help to dump in lettuce or cabbage, which are both very moist, or cover the pan with a moist towel to keep out the oxygen. The best option is, of course, the fire extinguisher, but ordinary ones are not effective against cooking oil fires. Kitchen fires usually require Class K fire extinguishers, but unlike restaurants, homes are not required to have these. Of the roughly 10,000 food-related fires in the last 3 years, nearly 2,000 were caused by frying oil. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's a dark, rainy Tuesday for the capital area again, while the southern provinces are having summer-like weather. Now, about the rain first. Thick rain clouds that formed last night have brought on and off heavy showers to the capital area. And central parts of the country are forecast to see showers picking up as the day goes on. And the rain will last until tomorrow morning, and do expect traffic congestions this evening. While southern provinces will see rain returning from tomorrow afternoon. A heavy rain advisory has been issued for Incheon and parts of Gyeonggi-do province, while a heat wave advisory is in place for Busan, Daegu, and parts of Gyeongsang-do provinces. And today's daily highs will be similar to yesterday, while southern parts of the country will have highs in the 30s under mostly sunny skies. And the day of Chuseok this Friday is looking sunny, but showers are in store across the country during the holiday. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now, but stay tuned to Arirang TV for the day's headlines all throughout the day. Take care.